Everybody, welcome to today's webinar. I know this is the first week that we're going to get stuck into the LinkedIn Accounting Client Lead Generation Beta program. Really looking forward to getting through this with you guys. At the end of this, you're going to have a fabulous machine that's really going to be able to get you 2 to 5 new leads every single week. Really, really exciting. So in week 1, this is probably the busiest week that we're going to have. We're going to obviously talk about your ideal client avatar. Very, very important, and that really sets up the second piece of what we're going to do today, which is setting up the key pieces of your LinkedIn profile. So let me just give you a little bit of orientation in terms of what's going to happen throughout the rest of the course. Well, as we've already said, today we're going to look at the ideal client avatar and profile. In the week that follows this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to work out how to actually find your LinkedIn audience. So this is one of those things that allows us to use the filters on LinkedIn so that we can laser target exactly who it is that we want to bring into our businesses. We did cover some of the preliminary stuff on the original webinar, but we're going to go into a lot more detail. And I'm going to show you how to use the basic account, and I'm going to show you how to use Sales Navigator and something called Boolean search strings, which really help you to eliminate a lot of the people that you wouldn't really want to find in there. And that's going to help us when we get stuck into the automation side of things. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the outreach. So this is all about the communication that we have within the LinkedIn platform. This is how we reach out, firstly to ask our connections to request to connect with us. It's also then how we follow up. And ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to try to get them to book an appointment or a consultation with us on our calendar, which will then either be a face-to-face appointment or an online appointment, depending on your type of business and what it is that you want to do. And then email marketing, we said that this is the secret sauce that really helps us to 3x our results that we get from the LinkedIn profile. So as soon as we connect with somebody on our first level, then we get the email address. We'll then take those email addresses, we'll take them out, and we'll stick them into our autoresponder. And then from that point onwards, we are able to do a lot of really interesting things. So I'm going to spend literally a whole week just on email marketing. So I'm going to take you beyond just LinkedIn and show you what to actually do with those addresses so that you can use that information, not just now, but later as well. And then, of course, in that last week, we're going to talk all about the question and answer session, and I've got a couple of surprises for you. What I might do in this session is have a look at some of the bonuses that we're going to do, because there's 2 bonus sessions I need to do for you. The one, of course, is all about that sales system that's not salesy, which really suits us as accountants and as service providers. And then the other one is the lead generation system that I've developed specifically for this, which is going to kind of tax on in the end. So what I might do with this, instead of necessarily doing a Q&A session here, as you know, this is a beta program. I'm probably going to work with you guys fairly closely during the week. So I might give you guys some one-on-one time as opposed to just going ahead and doing this Q&A session. But we'll tidy all of this up towards the end. So on the 4th session, which was really the last of the learning sessions to get our machine running, we'll go back and we'll have a look at this. So that just gives you a bit of orientation, and without any further ado, let's get back into it. So just a reminder of where we're going and what we're doing. So the system is designed to get you 3 to 5 new qualified leads a week, and it's really broken down into 3 pieces. So the first piece that we need to consider is the preparation, and really that's what today is all about. So we're looking at our ideal client avatar. That's the first item there. That's just fancy marketing speak for ideal client. Then we need to know what the message is that we've got to put in front of them. So as soon as we put the right message in front of the right people, they will know without a shadow of a doubt that they need to hire you as their service provider or their accountant. And then, of course, once we've got that information, we translate that into our profile, and that's what allows people to decide whether they're going to connect with us firstly, and then helps them to decide whether we are the right service provider for them. So once we've done all of that prep, which we'll do this week, then next week we start to get into how we connect with people. So the first part is obviously identifying who we're going to connect with. So next week's going to be a shorter session, but it's going to be a very practical session. So hardly any theory. It's really going to be us just jumping into LinkedIn, and I'll show you some examples. We might pick 1, maybe 2 examples, and we'll literally just go through it as one would. So we'll do it warts and all. So you'll see all the mistakes, you'll see all the things that work, all the things that don't work, and you'll know exactly how to apply it to your business. Then staying with the connection theme for week 3, that's when we're going to talk about connecting. So that's us reaching out, and it's also when people respond to us, how we then follow up with a communication to ultimately get them onto that consultation with us. And then, of course, the email is in the week after that. We said we're going to do 1 week of dedicated email. And you're going to see, of course, we do the email and the LinkedIn piece concurrently. That's very, very important to improve our results. And again, I'll show you that in just a while. And then, of course, the last piece is really what I call the engage piece. And that's where we're just following up with everything. So once we've done the hard work and we've connected with people, now we have to start nurturing them. We've got to start talking, building that relationship. We can't just go and sell them something right out of the gate. But eventually, and in many cases, very, very quickly, we can. So there's to be a follow-up strategy, which we'll talk about. And then, of course, you can bring automation into the picture. So we are going to talk a little bit about automation, probably in week 2 when we talk about connecting. I beg your pardon, week 3 when we talk about connecting. And we'll show you how to really scale what you're doing. And then, of course, the last piece is really just sitting face-to-face, where you sit in that space where you get to close the deal. And really all you're going to do is a consultation. Nothing more hectic than that. So, without further ado, let's get into week 1. So the first thing we have to look at is defining our ideal client. One of the most important things you can do. I teach a lot of stuff, and the most important thing I teach, without question, is your ideal client and how to find them. All right. The reality for me is that most people have no idea how to do this, and I think the reason is because there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and it's not an exact science, right? It is a little bit tricky. It's not one size fits all. There's a lot that we have to assume, but there's also a lot that we can do and understand. Once we do have that ideal client identified, we know exactly where to find them, and we know exactly what to sell them. In the LinkedIn context that we're going to do today, I'm really going to not teach everything that I teach for Ideal Client Avatar, because remember, you are getting one of the bonuses called the Ideal Client Clone. That'll give you all the info you need, but we have to be very, very specific, because LinkedIn is designed in a specific way, and if we actually harness the features that we can in LinkedIn, and we look at the way that LinkedIn has actually created all of those filters, then it becomes very, very easy. So what we're going to do, even though we're talking about Ideal Client Avatar, we are going to look at it in the context of LinkedIn, so that we can be very, very strong on this particular platform. So just bear that in mind as we're doing week 1. Week 2 is very much in the back of our minds. So let's just talk to week 2 just for a second, just to show you what I mean. So you'll remember from the webinar that we spoke about the LinkedIn filters. So when somebody signs up for LinkedIn, LinkedIn asks a whole bunch of questions. And the reason they ask those questions is so that they can take that information and dish it back to us as both advertisers, if we're paying advertisers, or just to use the platform when we're looking to find people. So if you look at the filters here on the left-hand side, you can see there's things like keywords. We can find people by location, by industry, by language, by postal code. So that's another location filter, but it just helps us to find them more specifically based on the radius from where our offices are, seniority levels, function, headcount, company type groups, a whole bunch of other things. So when we are defining, if you like, our ideal client, we just want to have this in the back of our mind so that we don't forget that we make sure that we have everything that is very, very LinkedIn specific. Okay, not going into too much detail today. I just wanted to put that out there so that when you are designing your ideal client, you do it with one eye on the LinkedIn filters. So think about LinkedIn as the biggest business breakfast in the world, right? There's like a ton of people on LinkedIn, over 600 million people, in fact. So that's a heck of a lot of people to find on one platform. So if you go into this big business breakfast where there's 600 million people, how do you stand out? And think about it from your prospect's point of view on the other side. They're also looking for you, because if they're out there looking for an accountant or whatever particular service you provide, that's what they're going to do. So you have to actually stand out. If you don't stand out, nothing's going to happen. You'll be like those grains of sand. Look at those grains of sand. Pretend there's 600 million grains of sand. How do they find you? Well, it's going to be rather difficult. So what you need to be actually is that big red umbrella on the 600 million grains of sand. The minute you're that red umbrella, you're going to stand out, and you're going to stand out via your profile, which we're going to talk about, and people will naturally gravitate towards you, and that's exactly what you want. So that's why the profile has got to be perfect, because there's a lot that actually goes into the profile, as you'll see in just a minute. So what I really want you to do is I want you to dominate your niche. So what that really means is I want you to pick an industry, because industries are what drives the LinkedIn search, and then find a way to provide a service that nobody else provides, or provide the service that you provide better than anybody else. Because the minute that you dominate a niche, and I know for accountants it's kind of a crazy concept, I'm saying to you, make your market smaller rather than larger. But I promise you, when you actually do shrink the size of your market and become a specialist, you can charge more, and it becomes much, much easier to actually find your clients as opposed to harder. It's a bit counterintuitive, I know, but trust me, that is the best way to actually do it. So let's talk for a second about your ideal client, right? This is one of, as I said, the most important things I teach, because once we actually know who they are, we can know where to find them. Now, in this context, obviously, we're going to find them on LinkedIn, but the reality is, if you do this work properly, there are actually so many other places to find them. You honestly should never, ever have a problem finding clients ever again once you've gone through this. And I'm not just talking about what I'm going to teach you on this LinkedIn course, but beyond this as well. So the first thing that I want to talk to you about is this concept of choosing your niche. Now, in the LinkedIn context, this is like vital, because this is really what's going to drive the whole thing. As we saw when we looked at those filters just a couple of moments ago, industry is really what's going to drive it. So let me talk to you a little bit about choosing a niche. And as you can see here, there's kind of two quadrants. The light blue one is what I call the fundamentals, and then we're going to look at the ways to choose it, which is the dark blue one on the right. Now, what I want you to do is, once you've chosen a niche using the methods on the right, so let's actually just start there. Then what you're going to do is you're going to plug that back, for all intents and purposes, into the fundamentals quadrant, and you're just got to make sure that you tick all of the boxes. And if you do tick all of the boxes, then you're going to know that that is the industry that you should be jumping into. So in terms of the ways to choose, the first block here is the industry. Now, this obviously is very, very important for LinkedIn. So my market is accountants. So when I start doing a search on LinkedIn, what the very, very first thing I do is I just type in the word accountant or accountants into the search bar, and everything else flows from there. So we have to have an industry, and I want you to think about it in that context. So remember, LinkedIn is a B2B or a business to business space. So when you're doing this, you must make sure that you can actually find your particular clients on LinkedIn. Otherwise, it's not going to be a very, very good niche for what I'm going to show you here. If you've got a lot of people that are on LinkedIn in that particular niche, you should do particularly well. So, anything that's B2B, so most of the professions, things like authors, speakers, coaches, consultants, attorneys, engineers, accountants, and even when you start getting into some of the trades, a lot of people are on LinkedIn, as we saw over 600 million of them. So your target market is out there. Just make sure that they're out there in big enough numbers. So how do we actually do that? Well, one of the things that we can do is say, well, how do we have numerous clients in a specific industry? If we do, then great. All we're going to do is we're going to look at that client base that we have. We're going to work out why they are ideal clients, and we're just going to try to duplicate that. And we're going to get more of them, and we'll have a look at existing clients in just a minute. So, well, if that doesn't work out, then the next question you're going to ask yourself from an industry perspective is, okay, well, are there logical industries for me to target? And in this context, for most of you, you're going to want your client base to be geographically close to you. So do it on a geographic basis. So, for example, if you were out in Mpumalanga, where we've got a lot of fly fishing, and we've got a lot of B&Bs and that sort of thing, you might want to specialize in the hotel industry or the B&B industry or the leisure industry. If you're out on the East Rand, out where I stay, where there's a lot of commerce and industry, you might target manufacturers, for example. Okay, so that's what I mean by logical industries. If you're still stuck and that still is not working for you, then look at what prior industry experience you have. And that industry experience doesn't have to be in the current profession that you're in. So as an accountant, you might have worked in an industry before you became an accountant, and that's also a great place to go back to, because prior knowledge is always awesome. And then if you're still stuck, okay, with all of that, and you still haven't found an industry, well, then just pick something that interests you. You're going to have to work a little bit harder, but I suspect at this point all of you should be able to actually pick an industry. Then if we go down and we look at the personal attributes, I like to work in an industry that I have an interest in, that I have a passion in. When you do that, it becomes effortless, the work is easy, and you become authentic. So when you're actually talking to your clients, they do really appreciate that you absolutely understand them. And when you do that, it becomes so easy for you to get the referral machine going properly, and everything just flows perfectly from that point onwards. So one of the things that you can do is look at your existing clients. And he has a whole bunch of questions that you can actually ask in order to try to identify who those existing clients are. And obviously, as you're going through that, you should be saying, oh, well, what industry are they in? And then you take that information, and that would be the industry that you choose. So the key criteria here is, please pick some sort of industry that's easy to find on LinkedIn, and we're going to just hopefully make sure that there are enough of them on LinkedIn. This piece here, this last piece, the niche piece, this actually refers to you in your business and your practice. So what I want you to do is, in order to become that red umbrella, I want you to try to do something that's a little bit different to just a normal trade. So, most accountants do bookkeeping and payroll, and they'll do some VAT stuff, and they'll do some year-end stuff and some tax stuff. Everybody does that, guys. In order to plant a red umbrella, I'd like you to be a little bit different. So when I was in practice, I was a residential property tax expert. In fact, I created a course. I went around the country for SATE, and I delivered that course to accountants all over the country. So the net result of that was, when my colleagues, other accountants, had complex tax matters that they didn't know how to deal with, they would send their clients to me, and I'd get a consulting fee. Also, in our practice, where we had 3 and eventually 4 partners, every time a client came in that was a property client or that had a trust, I got that client. So specialization definitely helps. So I want you to think about what you can specialize in within your industry. So think about, again, the skills that you have within your accounting arsenal. Again, there might be skills outside of accounting. So you might you may be a great coach, for example, or you might be able to teach something. Well, great. Take that information, use it, and pull clients into your business, and then obviously they'll become your accounting clients. Think about it. Are there specialist topics that you can consult or lecture on, as we've just said? And here's a big one. Like, if clients keep asking you for something over and over, and you keep saying no, what the market is telling you is that it's time to say yes, yes, yes. So think about the things that your clients might be asking you for, and go ahead and deliver those services. So this is the way that I want you to think about it, and to choose a niche. But again, I know I'm stressing this, and I've said it a lot of times. I'll say it one more time. Please make sure that we can find them in reasonable numbers. So there's got to be at least 1,000 of them on LinkedIn. In order for this to work. Then once you've got that niche, then what I want you to do before you move on and say yippee, I just want you to plug it into the left hand side here. So the first thing is, do they have a problem worth solving? So for us as accountants, we're really very lucky, because yes, the answer is there generally is, because every single month SARS wants something from them. But again, if you've got that red umbrella, then that's exactly what you want to do. That's going to take you to the next level, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. And then, of course, you want to know, is there a strong reason for them to solve the problem? So maybe they're getting their company deregistered, right? There's a really strong reason in order for them to need to get hold of your services. The next thing is your niche profitable? Well, no point in dealing with somebody that can't pay. So maybe you don't want to deal with startups. I deal with accountants because generally they can pay. Now, I've built my whole business around that, so it's kind of important that I pick the winner right out of the gate, and I want you to do the same thing. And then we've got how easy is it to find them? So again, generally from a bigger perspective, there's lots of places to find them. Today, and in this program, you just need to be able to find them on LinkedIn, and I think I've hammered that point to death enough. And then the last one is, what's the competition like? So again, you're going to find that as we go through this, due to the techniques that I'm going to show you and how to use the system, you really shouldn't have any competition. But again, if you can come up with something that's a little bit more niche and unusual when it comes to you providing your skill set, you're going to be in great shape, and that's what I would prefer you to do. Okay, so that covers the picking of the niche piece. Very, very important, and the cornerstone really of what we're going to do today. Now that we have our niche, the next thing we got to do is we got to look at what I call the ideal client pains and gains. So in order for us to actually position ourselves, we have to solve a problem. That's really why people come to us. They don't really care about anything else. They want us to be able to solve a problem. And when I say problem, a problem can be a negative problem, or it can be a positive problem. So on the left-hand side here, what you'll see the frustrations and the fears, and I call those combined the pains. And then on the right-hand side, we have the gains. So we've got the wants and the aspirations. So think about this. When people are out there and there's 600 million people on LinkedIn and they find you and they go and view your profile, we really only have 3 to 7 seconds to grab their attention in order to get them to do what we want them to do. So we have to hit them literally with a sledgehammer right out of the gate. And the way that we do that is by tweaking their emotions. And the best way to affect people emotionally is to solve a problem. So let's just have a look at this particular matrix, and I'll show you how to decide which sort of problem you're going to solve for them. So you'll see here on the horizontal axis, there's, as we go to the left, you'll see people do a lot more to move away from pain than they do to move towards pleasure, which is on the right-hand side over here. You've heard Tony Robbins say that, and you've probably heard 1,000,001 people say that. You just open your newspaper, listen to your news, everything is bad news. Nobody buys good news, so that's what sells. So for the vast majority of us, that's what we are going to do. We are going to use the big stick that the SARS gives us, and we're just going to use that stick in order to motivate people to hire us. But there is one exception to that rule. So I would say 90 to 95% of people that we're going to deal with will be on the left-hand side. However, there's one exception to this rule, which should get you looking very seriously towards the right-hand side, and that is entrepreneurs. Okay, they're a different breed, because for them the glass is always half full as opposed to half empty, and you'll know them. Okay, these are the people that drive you nuts. These are the guys that go do stuff, and then they come back to you and say, "Oh, I've done this. Can you fix it?" These are the guys that sometimes you might think they jump before they leap. They try things. They make quick decisions. They don't mess around. Those are the entrepreneurs. So an entrepreneur is not everybody that owns a business, just to be clear. If you're dealing with those people, then you want to play on the other side here, on the right-hand side. So let's have a quick look at the frustrations and the fears. So frustrations, you'll see there's 4 questions, 3 for frustrations and 1 for fears. So the first question is exactly that. What is their biggest daily frustration? So a frustration is just that. It's something that just drives them nuts, and it occurs over and over again. So let's say your client is frustrated because your client comes in and says, "Man, I just wish that my bookkeeper would give me a proper cash flow projection for every day. I mean, how hard is this? Just tell me what needs to be paid, what sort of money is going to come in, so that I know." It's a frustration. I can never get this spreadsheet that I asked them for. When I do get it, it's wrong, and it just frustrates the living daylights out of you. So that would be something that could qualify as a frustration. The next thing is you say, well, what do they struggle with on a daily basis? Now, struggle often comes down to something that somebody doesn't do very often, or has to do, but they're not really interested in it, and it's just like a chore. So in my world, I can do graphic design. I can create things. I can build nice web pages, but man, it takes me a long time to get it looking like something. My girlfriend, on the other hand, she can do something in like 10 minutes that would literally take me a day to do, because that's what she does. So guess what? I outsource all of my graphics. I don't do them myself, because that's like just stupid. It's not worth my time. And your clients are going to be exactly the same, right? So again, they may struggle with whatever with cash flow. They may struggle with collecting cash. They might struggle with creating budgets. They might struggle with getting finance. Whatever that is, you can actually step in, and they will pay you money in order to do that. The next one is what I call obstacles. Now, the obstacle is very important. Okay, you must solve an obstacle, because an obstacle means that there's some serious stuff in the way, and if we don't solve it, we don't have a client. So for me, I find with a lot of the stuff that I teach, I need accountants to be online, right? So there's a little bit of technology that comes with that. So unless I solve that problem for them, I don't have a client. So for me, I can't solve the problem individually for everybody. So what I did was I have hired, and I've built up a team around me of people that we can outsource to for relatively small money. And so that's no longer an obstacle, because you don't actually have to worry about the tech. You just give that to somebody else to do, and they worry about the tech. So that's how one gets around an obstacle. So like in your world, you may have a client that, I don't know, has to finance equipment, for example, and they can't get finance. Well, if they don't get finance, maybe the business doesn't get off the ground, or the business closes. There is an obstacle, and you can definitely help to overcome obstacles. Then the granddaddy here is the fears question. If you answer nothing else, this is the one that you can just tick this box, and it's going to work 99 times out of 100. And that question is, what keeps your prospects awake at night? So these are generally going to be problems, right? I can tell you from speaking to thousands of accountants, and this probably won't be news to you, but the two big ones for accountants are your clients are worried about cash flow, or they're worried about compliance. So if you're really stuck, okay, deal with one of those, but try again to use that red umbrella principle where you're actually doing something that's out of the ordinary. Okay, so that's all about the fears and the frustrations. It's really, really simple. Now let's have a look at the other side. Again, the other side is where you're dealing with entrepreneurs. You're going to talk to them in a positive way as opposed to a negative way. So if we look at the wants often are really just the polar opposite of the frustrations, and it's really just stating the frustration in a positive sense most times, right? So when we were talking about the biggest daily frustration, they're frustrated that they don't get their bookkeeper to give them the cash flow projection in the morning. Well, what do they want? I want the bookkeeper to give me a cash flow projection that works first thing in the morning. Okay, so wants are not particularly powerful, to be quite honest with you, because they are really just a reflection of the frustrations. But the aspirations are. Okay, so this is the place, if you're dealing with entrepreneurs, that you want to play. So think about when you got into your own business, right? Why did you do that? Okay, think back, for many of you, it's going to be a little while ago. Why did you do that? And one of the things, I know for myself anyway, was I said, I'm going to control my time. I'm going to be in control of my time. I'm going to be able to work when I want to work. Well, I've got news for you. I am the worst boss in the world. I've never worked as hard for myself as I did for anybody else. But I do, on the other hand, have some flexibility. So if I want to go and watch my son play rugby during the week, I can do that. I really don't have to ask too many people in order to do that. But as you can see, it's all about control, and it's about growing the business. So many times it's because we want to leave a legacy, right? We want to leave something that we've built. We want to look after our families. We want to look after our staff. We want to look after our suppliers. We want to create wealth. We want to create financial security. We want to spend more time with the people that we love. So that's all about aspirations. And when you're talking to entrepreneurs, that is where you want to play. But probably, and in my experience with most accounts that I deal with, 90, maybe 95% are going to play on the other side. So if you're really stuck, the one thing you got to do is take the biggest fear out there, what keeps them awake at night, and then you go ahead and you build your solution around that. So let's just talk about that whole thing at the moment. And this is a very important concept, and it leads on directly from what we've just looked at. This is what we call the ideal client criticals. And really, as you've gone through that matrix that we just looked at, when you're identifying the pains and gains, in there are going to be certain things that they're just painful, but there's going to be other things that your clients will absolutely pay for. And the reason they will pay for it is because it is critical to them, and hence the word client criticals. So there's a little worksheet that I've given here with 4 columns, and this is really how you go about identifying the client critical. And once you've identified the key client critical, that's the thing that we're going to be the best at the world at in solving for our clients, and that's going to be central on your website, and it's going to be central to your LinkedIn profile that we're going to do in the second part of today's session. So let's have a look at it. So the first 2 are fairly obvious. Let me actually just show you an example. The first 2 are the client critical itself. So in my world, for example, my clients want to get new clients. That's the thing that they want more than anything else. So is it an increase or a decrease? That's the second column there. Well, obviously it's an increase because they want more. Now here's the secret sauce, is the metric and the timeline. So the minute that I introduced a metric and a timeline into everything that I do and the marketing that I do, I 5x'd my results. So that's 5 times better. I mean, that's just like phenomenal. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? And the reason is that it gives people an opportunity to do a return on investment calculation, or an ROI calculation. Now, most people anyway, they don't sit down and physically do this calculation. It kind of just happens in their head, and this is how they determine whether they get value. So let's have a look at this. The metric in this case would be 2 clients a month. Okay, that would be the metric. That's the result, the goal. So immediately they can understand what it is. So people can say, okay, a client is worth 5,000 Rand a month to me, so 2 clients is worth 10,000 Rand a month. Then I say within 90 days. So they know how long that's going to take. So they can then do a projection. So in that simple scenario, they might say, okay, 2 clients a month, that's 10 grand. In a year, that would be 120. But okay, hang on, it's going to take me 90 days. So let's take that off. So it's going to be 9 times. So, okay, 90 grand. That's what this program will be birthed in a year. So now I then give them a price, and then they can say, okay, well, is that price less than the 90 grand? Oh, if it is, well, okay, it's a good deal. And that is how people make decisions. So we put in the metric in the timeline. So here's another example. My clients, they want to increase fees. Okay, a lot of them haven't, because we've been under such severe pressure. They haven't increased in the last few years. So here's a metric. You might want to increase fees by 10%, by 20%, by 50%. When? Because we need the timeline. Within 2 months, within 6 months, within a year. Okay, very simple. Let's show you a decrease example, just for completeness. Decrease here would be, say, the time that they spend at the office. Obviously, they want to decrease that. What is it? By 2 hours a week, by 10 hours a week, by 5 hours a week. Again, when? Within 3 months, within 6 months, within a year. Right, that's the timeline. And as you can see, this actually allows you, and allows your clients, I should say, or your prospects, to make that ROI calculation. So how do you find this? Well, as you've gone through that process of doing the pains and gains, you'll kind of identify things that come through stronger. Then what you should do is go to your client base, or if not, you can speak to prospects who are not currently clients, and there's many ways to find them, and you just ask them the question. So you'll say something like, listen, I've got these 5 things. I want to ask you, if I could solve just one of these 5 issues for you in the next 90 days, which one would it be? And here's the kicker, they can only choose one. Now, they're going to want all 5, right? Because we've already established that they are all critical. But there's a winner here somewhere. And this is how we ferret out that winner. And it's so important to do that, because we take that winner and we build everything that we do around that. That's the problem that we solve. It's not rocket science, right? Because the minute we solve the biggest problem that people have, we no longer have to sell anything. They're going to come to us and they're going to buy. So that's how you go about it. And that's really, really important in order to build out the rest of the stuff. Now, once you've got that information and you've identified your ideal client, you get out of this syndrome where it's a shotgun approach, where like you don't actually know how to get new clients, and the ones that you have got, like, they just come to you through a referral or through higgledy-piggledy means. And when you look at your client base, you think, geez, I'd love to fire X amount of people. Well, that's because of the shotgun approach. Now what you're going to do, because we can, and we're on LinkedIn, we're going to laser target exactly who we want. So we're going to get just those people into our practice. And these are going to be people that we really want to work with. They're going to appreciate us, and they're going to pay us properly for the work that we actually do. So that is all about the first piece. That is identifying your ideal client avatar. One of the most important things that you can do. So we're actually about to pivot over to the second piece, which is the profile. What I'm going to cover here is just the message part of that, and then we'll get into the profile proper. So the message, and in the LinkedIn context, I'm going to give you 2 different messages, and you'll see how we use them in just a moment. And they're very, very simple, based on who you've already identified as your ideal client, and what it is that we're going to do for them. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So we need to come up with a message, because remember, we got 600 million people at our business breakfast, and it kind of looks shabby, a bit like that. It's like, okay, well, how do you stand out in that crowd? Well, we've got to have a magic message in order to do that, and that's what I'm going to show you. In truth, there's 2 parts to this magic message. The first is what we call the magic promise. So here is the formula, very simple. The formula says, if I could guarantee you a result I know you 100% really want in a specified amount of time, okay, so it's kind of metric and timeline stuff, right? Would you be interested? So the would you be interested is a question, and it's designed very specifically to be a question. The reason it's designed to be a question is because the human mind cannot not answer a question. Okay, they will answer something, and the minute they answer something, there's some sort of engagement, and the something mustn't be like generally a yes or a no. We want to really get them thinking about the process. So let's look at that again. If I could guarantee you a result I 100% you really want in a specified amount of time, would you be interested? So let's look at a couple of examples there. So my example would be, and particularly for this course, if I could guarantee you 3 to 5 qualified accounting leads every week, would you be interested? Really, really simple, right? We are talking to my avatar and the problem that they have. And this, again, would be the client critical. That's going to be the best place for you to use your client critical. Let's have a look at another one. If I could show you how I generated 13 new management consulting clients paying 10,000 Rand a month each within a 45-day period, would you be interested? Okay, as you can see there, the formula coming to fruition. Let's have a look at one that might be applicable to you. You might say something to people, if I could show you how to save up to 15% on your tax bill in the next 6 months, would you be interested? Okay, that's going to be kind of hard to resist, especially if you have niched, right? Somebody comes to you, let's say you're talking to attorneys, and you've found a potential way in order to do that. And you're not guaranteeing anything, by the way. So as accountants, just relax. Well, when I talk to accountants, they get really excited when you say something. You're just saying save up to 15%, right? You have to look at it, obviously, look at the circumstances, but invariably, if you've got a few tricks up your sleeve and you're dealing with a particular industry, issues are going to come up over and over, and you're going to have the solutions to them. So this is very, very compelling if somebody sees this when they come to your profile. So what can you do? Right? Again, I want you to think about that, and again, think about that client critical, and hopefully that's the problem that you're going to solve. Let's now pivot and let's have a look at the second of the formulas. I call this the specialist industry formula. So this says, I am what specialist to the which industry or profession, okay? So what are you doing for who, basically? So let's have a look at an example. I'm a sales training specialist to the medical profession, okay? Really, really simple. What you do and who you do it for. Let's have a look at mine, for example. I would say I'm a lead generation specialist to the accounting profession. So that's what I would have said in this context. When I'm doing my other coaching, we actually get down to helping people get clients. So I would say a client generation specialist to the accounting profession. You might say something like, I'm a tech specialist to the motor industry, or I'm a tech specialist to the health and fitness industry, or I'm a tech specialist to attorneys. Okay, whatever it is that you're doing, what are you the best at the world at, and who are you going to do it for? Really, really simple. Okay, once you have that magic message, or those two pieces of the magic message, then you go from being invisible, where you saw a little bit earlier on where we had a 1,000,001 messages that we were trying to hack through, to being totally irresistible, and your clients are going to really be able to find you very, very easily. So with that in mind, let's get into the profile proper. So what we've done basically now is we've covered the first piece. We've got the key piece, everything that's really important for us to put together. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take this really to the next level. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the profile and actually how to put that profile together in a very, very powerful way. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So when we create a profile, just remember, you'll see just now when we're actually going to reach out to people, one of the things that they're going to do generally before they agree to accept your connection request is they're going to go look at your profile. So your profile really has to be killer. It's got to be what I call a kick-ass profile. And the other thing with profiles is that, when LinkedIn was originally conceived, it was more for the job market. That's how it all started. So you could be forgiven for thinking when you jump onto LinkedIn that you should fill out what looks like a CV or a resume. But remember, LinkedIn actually has two components to it. It has the job market piece, which is why it was originally invented, so to speak, but it also has a business piece, and that's really what we're looking at. So we're not interested in resumes, okay? That's kind of pointless for us. So your LinkedIn profile, in fact, is so powerful because it can act as a website, it can act as a landing page, it can really act as a sales page, and that's really what we're doing today. I'm going to show you how to turn it into a sales page, but not like a tacky sales page, a very, very professional sales page that your clients are going to relate to. So we have to get this right. It is like the cornerstone. It is so important. We can't market effectively if we don't have a great LinkedIn profile. So let's go ahead and look at what that looks like. So this is a screenshot of my profile. And there's 4 key components here that I want you to get stuck into. Now, just by the way, I'm not sure that I told you earlier, but for every single thing that we do, we have worksheets, right? So the worksheets will be in the members area below the videos, or the recordings, shall I say, of these webinars, but I'll also send them to you every week. So do not panic right now. Just relax. You don't have to take furious notes, because I'm actually going to give you worksheets that you're literally just going to fill in, and then when you're ready, you'll simply copy and paste that into your own LinkedIn profile. So you'll get a worksheet that does all of this. Now, the first thing that I want you to look at is what we call the background banner, or you can think about it as a header if you like. So if you don't actually do something special here, LinkedIn's got a very generic blue sort of mottled headline, not very inspiring, and if you don't use it, it's really a waste of space, because many times when people arrive on your page, that's the first thing that they're going to see. So if you have a look at mine over there on the right hand side, I've got a copy of my best-selling book. Now, this is a #1 bestseller of a book that goes into the accounting profession, right? Accounting Clients on Tap. So what am I doing? I'm building some authority right out of the gate, and I haven't even said anything. And then here is the first of our messages. What are we? I am a lead and client generation specialist to the accounting profession. So if you're an accountant and you get here, that's probably the first thing you're going to see, because it dominates, right? It's big, it's blue, it's in your face. And if you are an accountant, okay, it'll resonate. And if you need new leads and clients, it'll resonate. So if you're a plumber, go away. Cannot help you, right? If you're an engineer, this is not for you. Okay, I just want to talk to accountants. So if you're an accountant, it might still not be for you. But if you're an accountant that needs new leads and clients, then it is. So I've literally used that space very, very quickly. You're going to know within 2 to 3 seconds whether I'm for you or not. And you'll know whether to spend any more time on my profile or not. So very, very powerful. We definitely want you guys to go ahead and to do that. Then the next thing is the profile photo. Okay, your profile photo is so important. Let's talk a little bit about this. It's got to be professional. So when you actually look at your profile photo, you want to do a headshot. So you can see I've used as much of my head as I can. Why? Well, because I want you to see that I'm smiling. I want you to see that it's clean. I want you to be able to see the expression. I want you to be able to see my eyes. You'll also see when it comes to dress code, that's also important. Remember, this is a professional photo, all right? So do not be hanging on your significant other. Don't be, wearing a suit and tie if you're not a suit and tie guy. Don't be standing outside with plants and things behind you. Okay, don't have a very clean background. Let people see who you are in the business context, because ultimately they're going to meet you, and then when they meet you, you want to make sure that they actually recognize you and that there's nothing that's incongruent. You'll see I've used a few accreditations because I have them on the right hand side there. If you don't have them, don't worry, but have a plain background, maybe white or whatever other color that suits you. But very plain. It's got to pop. My advice to you is just go get somebody to do this properly. Go and hire a photographer. It doesn't cost you a lot. Have professional photos taken. If you need, they can even Photoshop some of the imperfections out and really make you look even better. And guys, this is your window to the world, so look your best. It really is that important. Don't take a shortcut, take your phone and put up a crappy photo, right? Just not worth it. The next thing is what we call the calling card, and this is powerful, right? This is kind of like your headline, and this is the second part of our magic message. So if you have a look at that, I say James Malphidas Chartered Accountant. So here's a little hack for you. In the first name, so when you're actually editing, so when you click this little blue pencil over here and you're editing, the first name I actually put my full name, James Malphidas, and then in the surname I put Chartered Accountant. So I did that because it helps me, again, because my market is accountants and I'm teaching them lead generation. I have a better chance of converting them into clients than say a generic marketer who's not a chartered accountant. So for me, that was why I put it in there. Very, very important. And then here's our message, right? Here, as we said before, if I could give you a minimum of 3 to 5 qualified exclusive accounting client leads every week, would you be interested? All right, the good old question. Very, very powerful. So as you can see, just by looking at those first 3 pieces, your prospects are going to know very, very quickly when they land on your profile whether you can help them or not. And again, time is money, guys. We don't want to be talking to people that we can't help, and they don't really want to waste their time with you. So if you've done the work and you've identified your ideal client, this is how we take that information and we create a very, very powerful LinkedIn profile. The fourth piece, and in many ways may be the most important piece, but it certainly will be once people start reading, is what I like to call your sales letter or your summary, right? So this is now point 4, and this is so important. I'm going to show you in just a second how to actually get stuck in and how to break that down and show you what it actually looks like. So just before I do that, you've got this slide, and again, this will be in the the worksheets that I give you, this is just helping you with those messages, right? And you'll see we're going to give you a lot of other materials. So I'll give you PDFs for this actually, and all you'll do, so here where it says complete this section, you'll literally type into the PDF, and then when you're ready to actually create your profile, literally you would just go copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, right? So you do all the work first, as I'm explaining it to you now, and then you go and you copy paste and pop your LinkedIn profile live. I just want to give you guys a couple of resources so that you can get some of the key stuff done, particularly the banner when it comes to our LinkedIn profile. So what I've done for you is I've arranged an awesome deal so you don't have to be a graphic designer yourself. For the princely sum of 100 South African rands, you can speak to Misha McCurr, and her details of their mobile is 063 101 3704. Or you can email Misha on misha@premieredge.co.za. So she's a kick-ass graphic designer. She'll put a really, really good banner together for you for $100. Obviously, you're going to need that in order to finish your LinkedIn profile, and I don't want you to be left behind on that. Misha is also a very accomplished copywriter, so a little bit later on when you're writing out your profile, if you want her to have a look at it, she can help you with that as well, and any other copy or graphic stuff that you might need. So this is a really handy resource. Misha's agreed to help. I've really twisted her arm to do this for you for $100, which of course is very, very cheap. So please reach out to her whether you need graphics or you need anything else. Really doesn't matter. So let's have a look at what the LinkedIn profile actually looks like. So this is a copy of mine. Now, if you can't read it, you're not supposed to be able to read it, so do not panic right now. This obviously will be in the worksheet that I give you. The only reason I wanted you to see that in one page is because that's really, if I which I did here, I just cut and paste everything. That's what you actually go ahead and you see. So what I've done is I've really just broken it down into 5 sections. Now, we are allowed 2,000 characters when we create our LinkedIn profile. No more, certainly less. Now, I use every single one of my 2,000 characters, and you might think that's a lot of characters, but boy, you will find out it is not. So the reason that I've broken this down for you into succinct little pieces is because actually you have to be very succinct with your wording, and you've got to make sure that you get the key stuff across, because 2,000 characters is not as much as you would think. So broken down into 5 pieces, let's take those 5 pieces and look at them individually as I explain to you, what the key criteria is for you to actually go ahead and to put everything together. So the first piece is really your opening paragraph or your lead, and that's really above the fold. So what that means in LinkedIn is that LinkedIn only gives you a couple of sentences, and then you get the famous or the infamous read more button. So in order for people to see your entire sales letter or your entire summary, they're going to have to click onto that little read more button so that they can open it up. So the 2 bits and pieces, which is generally 2 sentences, that's what you get before that, have to be really good. So you have to hook them, and you've got to get them interested and intrigued enough to actually go ahead and to click it to open the rest of your profile. So if we have a look at this, let me show you how I did that. Again, questions work awesome, right? So that's what I did here. I said, don't have the time, the resources, or the knowledge to get a consistent flow of leads into your business. Okay, asking a question. So now the mind has to answer the question, and then I say, now I'm giving you my answer to it, right? Because hopefully the answer when my prospects read it is, well, no, I don't. Then I say, well, I can give you a consistent flow of qualified leads that convert into fees, clients, and stable cash flow. So what is that, guys? It is my dominant client critical. That's the one thing that I'm going to solve for them. That's the thing I'm the best at the world at for my particular niche. Then they'll click, and then obviously I'm just tidying up here. So I'll say, and we'll do the work for you. That's important. Why? Because you need to prospect, continue to break even, make a profit, and grow the business. Okay, most people know that, but sometimes you just have to state the obvious. So I've closed the loop there. So very, very important. Use your client critical, grab them by the throat, get them to click on the read more button. Okay, that's your lead paragraph. The next thing, now you're going to talk a little bit about you. Now, in marketing, we don't talk about ourselves very often, to be honest, right? The reality is people don't care about us, and it's not particularly important. I hate to break this to you, but yep, they don't care. All they care about is what you can do for them. So in this case, you have to introduce yourself, obviously, but the best thing that you can do very early on in a relationship, because remember, think about this, remember in the context of the biggest business breakfast, when you go to a business breakfast, what do? You go to chat and you introduce yourself. What do you do? Okay, so that's really what you're doing here. But the way that we do it is we build empathy with people, and really all that empathy means is that it shows them that we really understand them. And if you're specializing in a niche, it's like manna from heaven for people, because most accountants, to be honest with you, don't really care all that much about their clients, and or at least their clients perceive that to be the case. When you become a specialist, it just says to your client, listen, I've taken this above and beyond. I really know what's going on, and therefore I can really help you. And so that's what we want to do here. We want to show them that we do understand them and we know what they're going through, and because of that, we're going to be the best choice in the world for them. And this is really how we bond with people. So sometimes you meet somebody and you just hit it off, and it's just like, wow. And there's other times there's a gut feel that says, I do not like this person, I cannot work with this person, and you just can't wait to get away from them. Now, oftentimes that's kind of unwritten, but it's all to do with values and things that we have in common. So that's really all we're doing here, is we're building that empathy. In other words, the stuff that we have in common, and we're doing it in a very understated way. So let me show you how I did it. I said, as a chartered accountant, so I've already discussed that earlier, because I'm dealing with accountants, they will know the minute I say that, I've already ticked the box. Like, oh, okay, he's one of us, so he probably understands what we're doing. And then just to make sure, I tell you that I spent 25 years in the profession. Okay, so chances are I've got a fairly good grasp. Then I say half as a partner in public practice and half in commerce and industry with both private and listed companies. So I've basically covered the whole spectrum, which is just showing people that it doesn't matter where you find yourself, I can probably help you, because I've been in all of those situations. Now here is where I really talk about what led me to create this program and to be doing what I'm doing today. So I say, sadly, I was forced to walk away from my audit practice in 2011 because I had no idea how to replace a few major clients we lost during the recession. Since then, I've become an internet marketing expert, helping accountants to get more clients. So what I'm doing here is saying, listen, I'm probably, or I was, worse off than you probably are right now. If I managed to get through that, I should be able to help you. And then I just basically use that as the reason. So you can see now there's a passion reason for me being in this business. It's not just all about money. It's not something I decided to wake up one day and do. No, it's because I was in that position. It cost me a lot, and I just want to make sure nobody else is in that position. So in a very short space of time, you can see there that I've told them about myself. I'm not bragging in any stretch of the imagination, and I'm just telling people why I can help them, and hopefully they're bonding with me on an empathetic level, and they're seeing that I am bonding with them on an empathetic level. So that's the second part. Once you've done that, now obviously I do have to build up a bit of authority, as obviously do you. And obviously this is important because you're kind of saying to them, listen, this is why you should listen to me, because, quote unquote, I'm the best in the world at that. That's where we want to get to. So how do we go ahead and do that? Again, this is where you have to be really careful, because you don't want to be bragging. You don't want people to be looking at you and saying, oh, what a jerk. So again, it's just got to be kind of matter of fact, and really that's all it is, and you only have a sentence or two to say it. So this is what I said. I've written 3 books on the subject, including the #1 bestseller, Accounting Clients on Tap. So already being a published author and a #1 best-selling published author, already I've got some credibility. And then this is obviously specifically for the profession, right? Accounting Clients on Tap. Clearly, I must know what I'm doing, because I have written a book that's been published for the profession. Then I go on to say, with tongue-in-cheek, the press have dubbed me the marketing accountant because of my unique ability to help accountants get more clients. So again, if I'm in the press, okay, I've probably done something right, and I kind of underplay that by talking about the marketing accountant. That's actually quite a funny story, because the first actually interview I ever did with a journalist, that's where this came from. The journalist just blurted out, "That cannot be," she said. "You should not be able to use the word marketing and accountant in the same sentence." So that's where marketing accountant comes from, and it's kind of stuck. And then I just say, after working with hundreds of accountants, again, authority, I learned our world has changed and most accountants have been left behind. Right. So again, a little bit of social proof, building authority without really bragging about myself at all. I'm not telling you I'm the best in the world, I'm wonderful, but I'm letting the circumstances around what I have done speak for me. Then we're going to get inside their head. So we started off by talking about the empathy. Remember when you were going through that process of finding out the pains and gains? Well, that's what this is all about. It's all about the pains and gains, and then reflecting it back to them. So it's kind of like entering the conversation that's already going on inside their head, because the minute that you can actually explain or enunciate their problem better than they can, they automatically assume that you've got the answer, which, by the way, is actually quite true, because that's the only way that you can actually get to that position. So you can see here, again, what comes out here is, I'm talking about my 3 biggest discoveries. This is the information that I have gleaned from actually talking to my accounting clients and prospects over the years. So I say my 3 biggest discoveries are that most accountants' biggest desire is to get more clients consistently. Okay, I've hammered that to death for you. That's my core client critical. Then another thing is traditional marketing methods don't work. Everything has moved online. Okay, absolutely true. You know that to be true right now. 5 years ago, I'll just give you an indication. When I tried to get accountants online, I battled like crazy. Today they're phoning me. The world has just changed. It's moving that way. And then the last point there is most accountants have absolutely no idea how to use online marketing methods. And again, that is 100% true. And I know this because I coach accountants. That's what I do. I spend literally all day with accountants, and I'm teaching them marketing, and in particular, I'm showing them how to actually use the online space. So I know all of this to be true because I live, eat, and breathe this stuff with my accountants every single day. The last piece is what we call the call to action, or the CTA. Now, anything that you ever do in marketing, okay, has to have a purpose, and at the end of that purpose, you need them to do something. And that something is what we call the call to action. Right? So if they've got to get on your calendar, that would be a call to action. If they must register for a webinar, that's a call to action. If you want them to buy something, that's a call to action. So whatever it is you want them to do, you must tell them exactly what you want them to do. Okay, people, you might know what it is that you want them to do. To you, it's obvious, but it's not obvious to them. So just be blatant, really. Just go tell them exactly what it is that you want them to do. Don't leave anything open to their imagination. So let's have a look how I've actually gone ahead and I've covered that. So the first thing I say is, but no worries, here's what to do next. Okay, that's clear, isn't it? Here's what to do next. Go do it. So it's almost an instruction, and now I do give the instruction. The first part of the instruction says, click the link. Okay, there's an instruction. There's no confusion. I've told you what I want you to do. That's my call to action. Click the link to find out how we get you a minimum of 3 to 5 fresh leads every week. And you'll see that I've got a shortened Google link. Now, to be honest, the only reason I did that was because of space. Remember, I said we only have 2,000 characters, and I just needed space. Otherwise, I would have actually used the full URL. And that's the only reason I did it. Then I go on to say, or schedule a discovery call. And now what I'm doing is I'm double branding. So there I do use my email, my URL, my website URL. So the first part is my company, and the second part is me. So this first part over here where I say regularclients.com, that's the company, and then I have James Malfita's calendar, right? So I'm branding myself as well. That's just a little double branding there. Then I say, P.S. if you're a progressive accountant looking to aggressively grow your practice, book a call above to find out more about my regular accounting client blueprint coaching program. Now, what I've done there is I've identified, and in one sentence, I've kind of described who my absolute ideal client is. So, when we deal with clients, not everybody is absolutely ideal. For me, if you're a progressive accountant looking to aggressively grow your practice, those are my best clients. Okay, I deal with them all the time. I know from experience. So I'm calling out to them. So it's really cool because if somebody is one of those and they identify themselves, they would think, yes, I'm that person, and in many cases they would call. So I've got calls just from that one little line alone, or people have gone ahead and they've actually booked on my calendar. Then over here, I'm giving you some details. Now, guys, I do not understand the accountant's mindset. I see this all the time, and it drives me crazy. Okay, please tell people how to get hold of you. Like, I go onto websites and there's no email address. It's like, what is it with you people? Okay, put your contact information there. Make it easy for people to find you. So I deal with accountants all over the world. So I have a Skype address. So I don't care if you're in London or if you're in Canada or in Cape Town, right? Just that's how you get hold of me. Email address is standard, right? You must have that. And honestly, you could even put your cell number on there. You'll be surprised, people don't phone you. And what a terrible thing if people phone you and they want to do business with you. How awful. And I know a lot of you are going to say, yeah, but then I'm going to get spammed. Yeah, so what? Okay, 2 people are going to spam you, so delete the freaking email. but please have your details there. They must be able to find you. Okay? Otherwise, you're really just missing a trick. Make it easy. If you have a website, obviously, which I've got in the links, at least they can go to the website, and please make sure on your website the information is there, and not freaking info@yourcompany.com. Okay, George@yourcompany.com. For goodness sake, tell people who you are. Make it easy for people to get to you. We're in a personal business, right? It's a person-to-person business, not a B2B, even though this is a business-to-business platform. So make it easy to find. And then again, my last piece there, just to make sure again, because this is really what I want, of everything, if I could wave my magic wand and I get one thing out of my LinkedIn profile, I want them to schedule a discovery call so I can chat to them. I get them on the consultation, because that's how we engage and that's how we can actually close the business. So again, I'm just saying, schedule a discovery call, and of course we've got our double branded URL there again. Just a point to note here. I did say to you 2,000 characters. Now, 2,000 characters is not a lot, so you have to be very, very succinct, if you like, with your wording. So if you're using Word and you're looking at the character count there, LinkedIn is a little bit naughty in the way they do the character count. So if you find that you've written something in Word and you've got 2,000 characters, well, you're probably going to be over in LinkedIn, because spaces count as characters, but also so do paragraph spaces, etc., etc. So you'll have to play that by ear, but just make sure that you are under the 2,000 characters and use as many of them as you can. I promise you, I used every single one of them. If you go to my profile and you count, there are 2,000 characters on the dot. So make sure that you use it. It's very, very powerful. So that's really what we need to look at when we covering the profile. As I said, I've got a complete profile worksheet for you guys to use. It should be pretty simple and pretty easy for you to fill in. So we will be sending all of that to you after the webinar, and future webinars will just we'll do exactly the same thing, but of course it goes into the members area. So if you're unable to make any of the webinars live, no worries, you'll be able to pick up the webinar replays, and of course you'll also be in a situation where you can find all of the collateral that basically goes with it. So now that we've sorted out profile, we've pretty much come to the end of what I really wanted to talk to you about today. So next week we're going to get into the piece about the audience, and that's quite exciting. Next week is going to be a very, very hands-on practical session. It's not going to be as much theory as we did today. Maybe just one or two things to show you what to do. Obviously we'll give you the worksheets. What we're going to do is we'll dive in and we'll look at some practical examples. So I'll probably send out some emails this week asking for you guys to give me examples, and I'll actually just use something from one, maybe two of you, so that we can actually do something that's very practical together. And we'll jump online and we'll do it warts and all, so you'll see what works, what doesn't work, and we'll also show you the difference between the basic LinkedIn program and platform, and we'll show you obviously on the other side how to use Sales Navigator. Okay, so I think for today that's really all that we needed to cover. I know we went through quite a bit, so sit back and relax. Go through those worksheets, do the best that you can. Again, the key factor when you're looking for ideal client is please make sure that you can find them on LinkedIn. So maybe that's the place to start. With the ideas that you have, just type that into LinkedIn and just see how many results come up. So you'll type in, say, attorneys, and then maybe if you're in Johannesburg or in South Africa, just put Johannesburg or South Africa, whatever the case is. Check it out, and then use that matrix that we spoke about so that you can go back and make sure that your niche ticks all of the boxes. Okay, so I think without any further ado, that is really all we need to cover for today. So we shall chat again next week when we get into the audience, which I'm looking forward to. Practical session, and if you guys have got any questions, you can shoot them through to me, and we'll go ahead and we'll answer them next week on the session then. All right, guys. Thanks for attending today, and we'll see you on next week's session.